and thanks for tuning into that edition of Formscan. Of course, special ones this week. We finally got to the week at Cheltenham, 1 day to go now. The excitement is really starting to build up, and I'm delighted to be joined each day this week by Gavin Lynch to preview each day's cards. And today we're going to be doing Tuesday. Gavin, are you excited for the big one?
Sure, you have to be, Emma. Even when you get a bit older like me, you still get a few chills. It's a bit like Christmas. Can't wait for tomorrow. 4 brilliant days. You know, people can crib a little bit about Cheltenham. It's fashionable to do so, but I think it's the best week of the year. It's the best racing. I'm a National Hunt fan, and to me, there's nothing like it.
Yeah, definitely. I think people probably find the build-up maybe goes on for a long time, but once you get to kind of this stage, everyone starts to get that excitement, I think. But I suppose before we crack in, just the first day in general, any declarations kind of surprised you when they came out on Sunday?
I didn't think so, really. Thinking back to yesterday, which seems a long time ago, I don't think there was too many shocks, really. No. I think I'd say we kind of got what we were expecting, to be honest.
Yeah, I suppose with the news coming out of Ballyburn earlier in the week that he was going to go to the Ballymore, that was kind of the one everyone was waiting for. So we'll start with the Supreme, naturally enough, the first race in the day. Always a good one to get right. It kind of gets your week off to a flyer, and no Ballyburn in here makes it a more open-looking renewal, but it's kind of hard to get away from the confidence the Mullins camp have around Tully Hill. Paul Townend chose to ride him. I suppose he didn't have the choice of Mystical Power anyway, but what's your kind of line into the Supreme here?
Tully Hill is a great chance. He's 3-1 favourite at the minute. He's the highest rated horse in the race. I think he's officially rated 153, so he's £5 clear according to the handicapper. He loves soft ground. He won that bumper that was on Saturday in Goran Park last run, soft to heavy over 2-2. He was then second with Dream to Share. If somebody said to you after his run in Punchestown on his hurdles debut that he'd be favourite for the Supreme, you'd get locked up. He was 2-6. He got well beat. He jumped appalling. He then won his maiden hurdle, and ace for his jumping was probably 4 out of 10, a bit better. On the last day in Punchestown, when he beats Chigoro by 9 lengths, his jumping again was like maybe a 7 out of 10. So I'd say he's definitely got the biggest engine. You just would slightly question his jumping, but yeah, he's got a right good chance. Some of the bookmakers might go 4 places tomorrow. See, bookmakers can take each other on a little bit for the first race, so watch out for a few different specials and stuff. And yeah, he certainly, I'd say he'll be up in the van for Paul Townend, and he should run a big race, yeah.
Would you be very worried about his jumping? I know Mystical Power isn't probably the most solid in that department either. Would you be looking to take them on, or are you going to stick with them? Firefox has to have a big chance as well, I suppose, for Gordon Elliott. Obviously beat Ballyburn in that kind of really hot maiden hurdle earlier in the year. He might be a little bit overlooked coming into this, is he?
Possibly, yeah. He won that maiden hurdle, and that was very disappointing in the Lawlers and Ace over 2.5, where he travelled brilliant, he jumped brilliant, and then found nothing off the bend. But at that stage, Gordon's horses weren't firing, and I think Gordon has been on record saying since that Firefox scoped badly after an Ace, so probably you could excuse that a little bit. Mystical Power is probably the one I like the most, maybe in the race. Certainly has that X factor. Obviously, a son of Annie Power, wearing first-time headgear in the Supreme. Interesting. Can be a little bit keen. There was talk of him going to the Ballymore, because I suppose he was so keen that they decided to go for the 2 miler, which means that JP has 2 in it. But he's certainly, very, very impressive in the Moscow Flyer. And for me, he may just shade it. But it's a very, very open race. We mentioned Jericho de Repene has a rating in England of 136, so probably is a little bit defined. The form got a boost from the last day since, but probably is a little bit defined. And then there seems to be good word the last week or two for Mr. Giff. He won the same maiden hurdle in Limerick that Stateman won. Came from France from the flat. He also wears first-time headgear for Darrell Jacobs. So look at it. It's a very, very wide open race. There's lots in with chances. I personally will be sticking to Willie Mullins. He had 3 winners on Saturday and Sunday. His horses are flying. I think he could have 10 or 11 for the week. And I'd just have slight preference for Mystical Power, but I think Tully Hill is a big danger too, yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of in the same camp. I was Mystical Power all along, but it's kind of hard to get away from the confidence they have behind Tully Hill. All of the people who should know, I suppose, from the Mullins camp seem to really strongly fancy him. And as you mentioned, the first-time headgear been applied to plenty of Mullins' horses over the first day. But I heard Ruby talking about that. I think he was saying it was just a decision made over, I think they were earplugs anyway. So he said not to read too much into it. An interesting one there as well, Super Sunday. first time running for Willie Mullins, a half brother of course Super Sunday, who was a brilliant Grade 1 winning hurdler. So interesting to see how he gets on first time. Probably one to follow for the future. But I suppose 2 tentative selections for Mystical Power. But I suppose follow Willie in the first is probably the good way to go in that one. But we'll go on to the next and the Arkle. This has been blown wide open, I suppose. No Marine National. Gaelic Warrior comes in here for Willie Mullins. I was a little bit surprised to see him declared here, to be honest. Paul Townend sticks with him. I suppose, look, he's probably the most talented horse in the race, but there's definitely doubts about him around Cheltenham. Do you think, Gavin?
Yeah, when he started back, when the season, we started talking about Cheltenham back in September, the talk was he was going for the Stayers. And then Willie on a stable tour said he was going for the Brown Advisory. And then when he won in Punchestown, he was going for the Turners. And now he's ended up in the Arkle. So it's sometimes impossible to know where's first-time headgear. As we all know, he's better going right-handed than he is going left. He was very, very impressive in Punchestown. Brilliant at Christmas in Limerick. He has a couple of runs in Cheltenham, second in the Boodle, second in the Ballymore. He can do it. I think the tactics in this race, Matat is going to be up there. So will Quilixios, and definitely Found a 50 will be up there. Found a 50 jumps to his right a little bit. So I just, if you're back in Gaelic Warrior, I'm sure Paul Townend won't want to follow Jack, because if Found a 50 starts jumping to his right, well then Gaelic Warrior will obviously do the same. So perhaps Paul will be back in the second row of the grid, maybe down the inside. He'd love to have a horse on his outside to keep him straighter. He has the biggest engine. He's around 7-2. I'm really struggling to find a selection in this race, to be honest, Emma. If the ground was better, I'd give my mate Mozzie a right chance, considering how fast they're going to go. JPR1 is probably the best jumper in the race, but you'd wonder, is his engine good enough? Elite Tomp and Found a 50 have formed from the Irish Arkle. Hunter's Yarn. He actually jumped he jumped well in both runs in Fairyhouse. Made one mistake each time. Once he came down, the other time he didn't. He has a big engine, hasn't done it at a Grade 1 level. So I just think this is incredibly open. One thing to keep an eye on is parallel lines of form. So, for example, if Quilixios ran a cracker tomorrow, well, then maybe it'd be worth considering Safarur for the Grand Annual and stuff like that. So just make sure when a race is over, apart from jumping up and down, having back the winner, make sure you go and have a look at the form for the rest of the week. Perhaps you might be able to find a winner. As a selection for the Arkle, I can't really give you one. Maybe JPR one each way, but I probably won't have a bet on the rest, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a really tricky one. I was kind of with Elite Tomp, but looking back on his Cheltenham form, he doesn't really seem to perform his best there. And just seeing Paul preferring Gaelic Warrior is another negative to him, I suppose. I'd probably take a small shout on Quilixios, around 7-1 there. He obviously acts around the track. A Triumph Hurdle winner there a couple of years ago. Good last time, and I think a plus for him, I think, is when he gets into a battle. We saw it there first time. He made a bad mistake in Limerick when he beat Cool Survivor, but he battled well, and this is an open-looking race, and the vibes seem to be very strong as well from the Barmhead camp. So I'd probably take a small chance on him each way, but like you said, it's a really tough race. There's kind of no real standout. I suppose Gaelic Warrior, but I find him a little bit hard to trust anyway. But some people might be a little bit more forgiving than me. But we'll go on to the next anyway. The Ultima. Look, we're talking about difficult ones. The Ultima, I think the Irish haven't won this since 2006 when Tony Martin won it. But Willie Mullins is in here with Meeting of the Waters, changed hands to J. McManus. Looks plenty short enough now at this stage, but I suppose he must have a massive chance here.
Ireland, yeah, we're not from 38 over the last 18 years, but that's only 2 runners a year. But generally, when Irish trainers have a really good staying handicap chaser, they tend to target the Kim Muir, where they might get one of the good amateur jockeys. So I don't think Irish trainers really target this race. But the Meeting of the Waters, Stumptown, etc., they have no choice, and the Goffer, but to run here, because the Kim Muir is a 145, and they're all 147 and 148, so they can't run that. So I suppose that's why they're in this race. Meeting of the Waters has had 5 runs for Willie, 2 runs in Galway, 1-0 to 116, beginners chase in Cork, and then a massive step up in class and grade and company, etc. To win the Paddy Power very easily off 130, is up here to 145, and Ireland 147 in the UK. He has to have a solid chance. He was unlucky to be unseated the last day after being brought down at the first. He has to have 1 more run, which is here, to qualify for the Grand National. You have to have 6 runs. I think he's got as good a chance as any. He's certainly got a strong each way chance. Again, some of the bookmakers are going 5 and 6 places. 2 of Kim Bailey's that are definitely worth mentioning is Chianti Classico. This horse has been talked about for this race for months and months. Kim Bailey likes to target this race. He has a solid chance. He's a novice. So the 2 horses I mentioned so far are a novice, and the third one is Trelawn. I think Trelawn has got a great chance here. He's also a novice. He's had 4 runs over fences. He had a very, very good run at Cheltenham. And then we all saw what he did in Wetherby, where he hung like a gate out to his right and etc. But that was a very small field. Before that, when he was third to Ginny's Destiny, he behaved himself perfectly well. So I would tend not to worry. The fact that he's got Harry Cobden on board is a massive help. He's going to be up on the van. He'll be in the first 5 or 6 all the way around. He definitely stays. He's won over further than what he's ran so far over fences. He won over 2.7 in New Toxeter. He's in here off 144. Harry on board. Kim Bailey's probably could be in better form, but I think Trelawn at 8-1 has a strong each way chance.
Yeah, I was kind of with you there. To be honest, kind of hard to get away from him, especially that Ginny's Destiny and Grey Dawning form at Cheltenham. Axter on the track and Harry Cobden's a massive plus for him as well. I think he'll suit him down to the ground. But yeah, the Irish runners have to have a chance. The Goffer, I suppose, was he fourth in it last year? I think horses coming back to the Ultimate actually have a pretty good record of getting their head in front. Was it Vintage Cloud was one of his 5th attempt there a couple of years ago, and had a few repeat winners. Had a few repeat winners as well. So he won a charity race there that won't show in the immediate form, but sure he's in good fettle anyway, I suppose. And Gordon and his string are going well on the one up to the festival. So we'll move on anyway to the 3:30, the Champion Hurdle. I suppose Constitution Hill Out has changed the look of this race completely. State Man now 1 to 3, absolutely rock solid in my eyes anyway. Would you be looking to have any kind of a play in this race each way maybe?
I won't. I'd just be all over State Man. But then again, he's 2 to 5, 4 to 11. He's £10 clear in ratings, and that seems fine. He's won 8 Grade 1s. He shows up. He dances every dance. If he wants to be very, very, very fussy, you might say that he didn't travel well in last year's Champion Hurdle on this course. But he did win the county on the new track off 141. He's got an official rating of 169. Irish Point is the second favourite. It looks the most logical choice to be second. He's got a nice turn of foot. Jack will probably track Stateman. I'd imagine Stateman will be up in the van in this race. Iberico Lord has been supplemented. He's got an official rating of 143. So he's got £16 to find with Irish Point. I think Irish Point is around 6 to 4 without. So maybe that could be an angle. But I think it's one of the poorest Champion Hurdles we've ever seen, and Stateman should win, yeah.
Yeah, it has to be. Like losing Constitution Hill is kind of a massive blow to the whole week in this race in particular, I suppose. But how worried would you be around the form of the Nicky Henderson horses? I know it's been publicised plenty. He hasn't been firing, I suppose, on the one up to the festival.
Definitely, it's a worry. Excuse me. He's had a lot of horses taken out over the weekend and stuff like that. He's had a number of horses pull up in the last week or two, so yeah, it's definitely a worry. It'll be interesting to see what price Sergino is by the time Tuesday is ran. Nicky has a few fancied ones here and there. Jericho de Repenena, Iberico Lord, etc. So it has to be a worry. It can't be ideal. So yeah, as the days go on, it'll be interesting to see what prices. If they start running badly, they'll obviously drift hugely.
Yeah, following the price of Sergino will be interesting. Seeing how they're gonna. He doesn't have a whole pile on the first day, I suppose. Jericho de Rapine is probably one of the more fancied ones. But we'll go on to the Mayor's Hurdle anyway. Lossiemouth here, probably one of the bankers of the week. But some people do have stamina concerns. I know Brian Cooper was expressing that on our preview last week. Look, I suppose she's such a strong traveller. Is probably what's bringing that into people's minds. I don't really have those concerns for her though. Do you think she's solid, or are we looking to take her on?
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't be laying her. I won't take her on, really. I think she will stay. When she won the Triumph Hurdle last year over 2 miles 1 on the new track, she ended up on the front a long way out. The race fell apart a little bit. She was quite keen. This year, in the International Hurdle, she was able to follow a proper good gallop. She sat in behind. She settled lovely. She jumped brilliant. She always jumps really well. And the fact that it's 3 furlongs further than the Triumph Hurdle, at least it's on the old course, which makes it a little bit easier. Very hard to see her beat. She's £11 clear of Astro Diamond on official ratings. That's probably, I think she's better than 144 Mare. One thing to mention with Lossiemouth is Triumph Hurdle winners over the last 10 years have not really advanced particularly well. But I think Willie has done a very clever thing and just given her the one run a few weeks back, giving her plenty of time to mature and develop, and then to not go for the Champion Hurdle for maybe another season or so. Ashra Diamond was talking to James Fenton the other night at a preview night down in Cork. He's the head of the syndicate, and he was saying that they might possibly, they're talking about kicking on at the bend just to see can they get Lossiemouth off the bridle, which seems an obvious thing to do. So Ashra Diamond was very solid. She won well at Doncaster. She won a grade 1 over 2.5, so she definitely stays. She has first time headgear. Henry has 3 in it. Hispanic Moon, Lantry Lady, who won well in bad ground in Gorham Park. And also Tell Me Something Girl, who ran very well behind Zarek the Brave and Nace. Fences didn't work out for her. She won the Mayor's Novice. She was unlucky in this race a couple of years back, and the Mayor's Hurdle being brought down, coming down the hill when she was travelling very well. She's had the 2 runs back over hurdles. Perhaps she could run into a place, but the people in, I don't know how many staff Willie has, but I don't think you'd find one person down there that'll probably tip against Lossiemouth, to be honest. She seems the talk of the town, and obviously if she stays, she should win. I think she will stay, and yeah, she's 4-7, so she's no wild price, but it'll be nice to see her win.
Yeah, she's probably one to put in some of those banker accumulators. I think I can't really see her beating. The vibes are very strong around her as well. I am a bit surprised the Gala Marceau has gone out to 20-1 though, to be honest. If you asked me maybe before that Punchestown one, I would have thought she was probably the most likely challenger to Lossiemouth, especially over this 2 mile 4. I'm probably willing to forgive her for that one at 20-1 anyway. I think she might be a small bit of an each way chance. Danny Mullins back on board. And interesting, I think Brian Hayes said they actually felt they hadn't done enough with her on the one up to Punchestown. That was very heavy ground that time. So I mean, if she bounced back to form, I think 20-1 looks a massive price. But yeah, finding it hard to oppose Lossiemouth there. But Ashrow Diamond is proven over the trip as well. So great shout for her as well. But 10-5 now is the next race. The Boodles, always a very tricky one, I suppose. Do
we have to talk about this race? We do.
I suppose we do. Joseph has what I find very, very short lack in the morning, 6-1. Hasn't won a race yet. I don't think that's a great. If you look at the trends of the Boodles, that's not a great one to follow. But I suppose, Gavin, are you a fan of this race? Do you get involved?
Yeah, I don't mind the race, but just this year it looks incredibly difficult. I think if somebody gave me a choice that you pick 5 and I'll have the rest, I'd let you pick 5 horses because it's just incredibly difficult. Lark in the Mornings, he said, big eye catcher the last day in Punchestown, not knocked about, shall we say, in here off 122. His jumping would want to be a little bit better. They're going to go lickety split. There's 22 in it. You'd want to jump really well to win this race unless you have tons in hand. So Lark in the Morning for me, yeah, I think the price is probably a little bit short, but has a chance, I suppose. There's loads in here with chances. Liari is top weight. Nadawi won well the last day in Nace. Batman Jirac is a horse that I liked. I backed him maybe a month or 2 ago. Willie Mullins applied for a handicap rating in England back in January in Ascot, I think it was. Got a rating of 133. Couldn't go right-handed at Fair Years back in December. The last day finished 4th in the graded hurdle at Christmas and definitely wasn't knocked about by Mikey O'Sullivan. Was last jumping was in last place jumping 2 out. So he has definitely got a chance. The fact though that Paul Townend is sitting on the sidelines is definitely not a confidence booster with that one. Darrell Jacob rides here, but I'm sure Paul, if he wanted to, could have ridden in this race, but he's decided not to. And obviously he's not in the last race, so he'll be heading out of the race course at about 20 past 4, half 4. Milan Tino has a rating in France of 136. A couple of runs in England behind Burdett Road, and Sergino has been dropped to 126. That obviously has a good chance. Jose Partier has been incredibly keen. Same owner as Lark in the Morning. This one is trained by Martin Brazel. And Jose Partier, if he behaves himself, he ran okay at Christmas. Again, not knocked about. He's better off the weights with Batman Jirac for 4 lengths. He'd have a squeak. Nara might be the one I'd put up each way at 12-1. Won in France, ran in that listed hurdle that we mentioned in December in Fairyhouse, and then finished 4-5 to Eagle Fang in Nace. That race in Nace is the first port of call with this race because it has given you 4 of the last 5 winners of the Boodles. And it's probably obvious enough why, because it fits in time-wise, and also you don't want to run in a grade 1 if you're kind of going for a handicap. So it's a race that a lot of the Irish trainers target at that time of the year. So Eagle Fang would have a chance, but Nara is better off the weights. Wears headgear and tongue tie again. Mark Walsh is on board. Off 126 would have a small each way chance at 12-1. But I think really if you had to cut the lawn or you have to go for a cup of tea or collect the kids off the bus, I think now's the time to do it.
Yeah, it just might be. It's a very, very tough one to get stuck into. And like you said, I think I thought Paul Townend not riding in this was probably noticeable enough. Maybe towards what the real strong vibes around the Mullins runners and probably minding himself for bigger ones later on in the week. But Milantino getting dropped £10 has to be an eye-catching one. I'd probably be a little bit concerned, would he be quick enough? He's by Milan. That'll at least be flatbread. If it was over a little bit further, or if the ground got very soft, I'd say to bring it into him. But I think at the moment, the ground seems to be drying at Cheltenham. I think they got a bit of rain yesterday. I think it's soft, but they're dry forecast for the next day or two. So be a little bit worried about him. If it was soft now, I might fancy him a bit more. But like you said, Eagle Fang, Nara, all those ones from that race are probably worth a look. I don't really have a very strong fancy in here myself. If I was forced, I'd probably go for Eagle Fang each way, 20-1 for Bill Durkin. I thought he was a good winner that day, and I think they'd be hoping for drying ground as well. But again, a tentative selection in the Boodles. We'll just talk about the last race then, the Maureen Mullins National Hunt Chase. Great that this is named after the late Maureen Mullins. We've got 2 Mullinses at the top of the market. Emma trains Corbett's Cross, of course, and Willie trains Embassy Gardens. I was in the Corbett's Cross camp a long way out this season. I was maybe thought he might have gone to the RSA, but gone to the National Hunt Chase. Probably looks like the right selection for him now, and having Derek in the plate is a massive plus as well. They both were the first time hood Corbett's Cross and Embassy Gardens. Gavin, are you going to have you any fancy in this race?
Yeah, I'll probably go for Embassy Gardens. I think he's a better jumper. He's a fine stamp of a horse. Obviously, he wasn't brilliant last year in the Bartlett. He was way too keen. Patrick thinks that the start of that race didn't suit him down the hill, etc., etc. But I think he's behaved himself really well this year. Jumped amazingly well in Punchestown. Jumped very well again in Naas. To me, he's just the more solid option. The vibes are quite strong. As you said, he's wearing first-time headgear. You mentioned about the ground. Officially, I just read there earlier that it's officially soft ground at 10 or 11 mils on Sunday, and they're due to have maybe 4 mils on Tuesday morning. So I think that's perfect for every horse. The National Hunt horses, it's better than having good ground, and it's definitely better than having heavy. So I think the ground will suit every horse, to be honest. It's no excuse. But Embassy Gardens is very, very solid. Corbett's Cross, you know, his jumping, he didn't start out looking like a natural when he ran in Naas, or even when he won in Fairyhouse. His jumping is fine. Second at Christmas to Grange Clare West and Leopardstown. The last day, he officially fell, but the 2 horses banged into each other. He was very unlucky there, and he actually jumped reasonably well up to that. As you say, Derek will probably ride him for a bit of toe at the end of the race. The pace in the race would come from Mr. Van Gogh. Apple Away will be up there, and imagine Embassy Gardens might sit third, but Derek will be following Patrick the whole way around. 3 horses that ran against each other in Ascot: Henry's Friend, Kilbeg King, and Apple Away. Not much between them there. The time of the race was actually quite decent, but they would have chances. Corbett's Cross will run a massive race. I'll just go for Embassy Gardens.
Yeah, Embassy Gardens looks definitely an improved horse this year, and a good shout from Brian Hayes about him last year on his homework as well. But I thought Bon O'Neill was a notable booking on Apple Away for Lucinda Russell. But I was kind of looking at Salvador Ziggy, but then I heard he had bled in America in that American National, so that kind of turned me off him a small bit. But if he got back to his best form there, like when he was second in that Kerry National in a stole, he'd have to be right up in the mix. But I'm definitely firmly in the Corbett's Cross camp here. I think just going at that slower pace will help his jumping. The hood on might help him settle. He got very lit up in last year's Albert Bartlett, which maybe didn't help him in seeing at home. I don't think he was going to win anyway when he went out at the last, but Derek will be a big help there, and I could just see him lobbing around at the back and picking them up over the second last, maybe or last fence. He looks like probably just a classier horse. I'd have little bits of worries about Embassy Gardens. Just he blew out at the festival last year. I know he's improved this year, and but look, it'll be a cracker either way. But I'm with Corbett's Cross. But we'll wrap it up there, Gavin. And we'll be back for a Wednesday tomorrow. But before we wrap it up, I'll ask you for your nap and your next best on the Tuesday.
Obviously, no point in going for Lossiemouth or Stapleton. That's no good to anybody. I'll go for Embassy Gardens 2-1. I think that's okay value. He's very, very solid. He jumps brilliantly. There should be no excuses with him. And then maybe either Meeting of the Waters or Trelawn each way in the ultimate. I like those 2 in that race.
Very good. I'll go for my nap. I'll go against you. I'll go with Corbett's Cross. And my next best, I actually might take a chance with Quick Silly Ass in the Arkle. I think the vibes are really strong around him. But we'll wrap it up there. Thanks a million for coming on, Gavin. We'll be back again tomorrow to preview Wednesday's racing.
Thanks, Emma.